Alright, so this will be a short flight to the west today, doing a refamiliarization flight in the Piper Archer. Right now on the taxiway at Arlington Airport, getting ready to start up. So first we're going to crack the throttle a little, about 1/4 of an inch. Next, turn on the master and the avionics switch. Beacon is on, that lets others know that we're starting. Next we're going to turn on the, next we're going to go rich, and turn on the fuel pump. Yeah, fuel pressure. And then we're going to turn off the fuel pump. Make sure we are clear around us. Looks like we are clear. Close the door. Parking brakes activated. And then we're going to crank it. Check our engine instruments, make sure that everything looks good. Got fuel pressure, oil temperature, and oil pressure is rising. Got good amps, good fuel, and yeah, everything looks good. So now we can start running, we can start taxiing. While we're taxiing, we're going to pull the mixture back a little, so that prevents the spark plugs from fouling. Winds are favoring runway 34 today, so that's what we will be taking. So next we're going to do our run up, and we're going to turn into the wind. Set our parking brake. Alright, so let's go through the run-up checklist. So, cabin is, doors locked in the cabin. I'm going to put the mixture rich for full takeoff power. Make sure all of our gauges are correct. This is off. Gotta make sure this matches with our compass. Make sure our flight controls are free and correct. Next, we'll test the magnetos and the carb heat. So we'll take the engine power to 2,000 RPMs. Going to do the mag check. Carb heat next. Looks good. Oil temperature and oil pressure are all up. Amps look good. Fuel pressure looks good. And we have full fuel. Next we'll forgot the suction gauge. Yeah, we also got suction too. Vacuum pressure. Next we'll take the throttle back down. Test our warning lights. And looks like we're good to go. Electric fuel pump is off. Yep. Reading through my checklist right now. Alright, next before takeoff checklist. Master is on. Flight instruments are all check out. Fuel selector is on the right tank. Electric fuel pump is on, I guess. We turn that on, I guess. Just for redundancies. Carburetor heat's off. Seats are back and locked. Mixture is rich. Primer is locked. And I'm going to set our flaps for takeoff setting. Set the trim for takeoff as well. Right now running the trim, you can't really see it. And it looks like we're all good to go. I'm on the VATSIM network right now, so I'm tuned to the common traffic advisory frequency that's common for the whole VATSIM network across the virtual skies, so I'm not tuned into Arlington right now. Plus I have no AI traffic on. So we'll be communicating on VATSIM, although I don't really expect much activity right now, so looks like it's just us for now. Arlington traffic, Piper is 06 Yankees, departing runway 34 to the west, Arlington. Okay, let's go. Going to trim for a climb out speed of about 76 knots, which is our best rate of climb in the Archer. Flaps up. Going to climb up to about 1,200 feet, which is the traffic pattern altitude at Arlington. and we'll stay in the pattern until we exit on the downwind. Begin our crosswind now. Just about at our altitude. Currently on downwind, and we'll be exiting the pattern once we cross about midfield. Arlington traffic Piper 06 Yankees leaving the pattern to the west at a 45, Arlington. Gonna climb to about 3,000 feet so we can apply power again. Right now we just crossed over I-5, and we'll be heading out over towards the Stanwood area for practice. Right now we're right over Lake Goodwin. There's Stanwood out there. That's where we'll be practicing. Everything looks great. It's nice and sunny and clear skies. See the Olympics out there. Losing a little bit of altitude, gotta trim for that. Gonna keep flying until I hit the shoreline for Port Susan, and then we'll turn to the north towards Stanwood. Oh, well then. Looks like we got a bit of a hazy layer forming, although I can still see roughly about, say, 8 to 10 miles, so I'd say we'll continue with the flight. Gonna turn north right now. Oh, that's a beautiful turn. Alright, so it looks like the haze kind of lifted. Right now we're just off of Stanwood there. It's a little windy up here right now. So anyways, right now I'm gonna kind of demonstrate the stability of an airplane when it's trimmed just right at a certain altitude and speed, and if you kind of knock it off its current attitude, it'll naturally find its way back there. So we'll pitch the airplane up and let go of the controls. and just keep the wings level. The airplane's going to go up and down for a bit, and it'll naturally find that altitude again and speed at what it was trimmed at. This is kind of like the basics of straight and level flight. Airplane's almost there. And it's just about there. So yeah, that's how stable this airplane is, and that's how kind of straight and level flight works. When you have it trimmed at a certain altitude and at a certain airspeed, the airplane's going to want to naturally find that, even if it gets knocked out of balance or knocked out of its attitude it was trimmed for. So we're cutting into a little bit into Skagit up here, and I don't want to go too far north, so we'll turn on back around towards Stanwood and keep in our area over here. Yeah, losing altitude on this turn, and I'm off center. Yeah, when you're turning an airplane, to those who aren't very familiar with aircraft, you're losing some lift, so you gotta pull back on the yoke to point the airplane at a higher attitude to kind of compensate for that lost lift that's being used to turn the airplane. And if you don't pay attention like I was doing there and you don't have enough back pressure, the airplane will lose altitude on you in the turn. So you gotta watch for that. Okay, next we're gonna kind of do the opposite. We're gonna pitch the airplane's nose down for a few seconds. Keep the wings level and on its current heading, and it will naturally find that speed and altitude I set it at with trim. That's what I really like about trim. It's kind of like a natural autopilot. Really, what trim really does, though, is that it basically relieves the control pressures off the yoke, so you don't have to constantly hold the yoke at a certain position to hold it at a certain attitude. Trim lets you to be able to basically fly just with the tips of your fingers and mostly hands off a little. Just about there, back where it was. Gonna climb for a little bit more by the looks of it. Now it's going to settle back down to 3,000 feet at about 98 knots, I'd say, if I'm reading that correctly. No, that's about 100, over 100 knots. Sun's starting to set. It's pretty pretty cool right now is there's quite a bit of controllers right now active on the VATSIM network in the Pacific Northwest. This is actually my first flight on VATSIM as well, although I'm flying on CTAF out of a airport with CTAF with no controllers, so I can't really use any of those controllers or talk to them unless I want flight following or something, and I'm not in any of their airspace. Anyways, next we're going to be practicing, I'm going to be practicing my 20-degree turns, shallow, or not shallow, but medium bank turns, and we'll be using this heading and that little island up there off my nose as a reference point. And we'll start to the left first. We'll do a full 360-degree turn. So far it looks good. Ball is centered, not gaining or losing any altitude, holding 20 degrees of bank. Coming up on the island, I'm going to undo our turn. And there we go. Next we're going to do a turn in the opposite direction, but first I want to climb to 3,000 feet. We're like about 100 feet off. Alright, we're clear to the west, or to the right. Well, let's begin this turn. I think I did a lot better on this turn. Approaching the island and the heading. Gonna roll out. Nice. Next, we're going to do a 180 degree turn. We're getting pretty close to the Payne Field up here, so we're going to turn around. We'll turn off to the right. Nice. Look at that nice sunset. So I'm going to fly on this heading for a little longer until we get back into our practice area over there. And I'll probably do a few more turns, and then I think that's pretty much all I have on the books for tonight. Then we'll head back to Arlington. So one of the unique things about the Piper Archer compared to Cessna 172 or Cessna 152, which is what I'm normally used to flying, is that the fuel tank system down here, you don't have a both option. So you can't draw from both tanks at the same time. You can only draw from one at a time. So you gotta kind of have to be a little more careful with your fuel management so you don't totally deplete one tank. So using my phone, I put myself on a 30-minute timer to swap the tanks every 30 minutes, and my timer just rang. So I'm gonna swap to the other tank. Engine's gonna cough for a bit. There we go. Switch to the other tank. That's one thing I do. I actually kind of do like that about the Archer, though, is that Cessna 172 is a very basic airplane to fly. Like pretty much anyone can fly that. The Archer is a little more complex. It's not like a true complex airplane, but it's just a little bit harder to fly and manage than the 172, which I think probably prepares you a little bit better for complex airplanes. I know, that's just my opinion. I think a monkey could fly the 172. That airplane's really easy to fly. So next, I'm going to practice a few more turns, and this time I'm going to practice turns in 90 degrees. I'm going to go 90 degree increments. So we'll start the first one right now. They're all going to be at 20 degrees of bank. Clear traffic on that side. Going to turn 90 to west. Right on with the sun. Ain't that pretty? Next, we're going to make another 90 degree turn to the south. I'm going to roll out now. Nice. There's Arlington, and Three Fingers and Darrington and all that stuff out there. Gonna make another turn to the east. Oh, this one I went a little over. About 5-10 degrees off. And lastly, to the north. Nice. This time we're going to go in the opposite direction, and I'm going to try to do it more consistently. Oh, losing altitude again. Don't see any traffic. Nice. I think I'm going to practice a few more turns off camera, and then I'll head back to Arlington before it gets too dark. Alright, so I think I'm done with my turns. The haze is starting to come back. It's getting dark. There's going to be some marine fog forming, so we're going to head back to Arlington. But check out that sunset. That is awesome. It's really beautiful. Alright, now over Stanwood. And Carenado Island's just off our nose. Oh, it's traffic up there. There is somebody flying above us right now. Yep. Delta 8232 767 300. That is too cool. Oh, fog's gone and we just got whiplashed. Yeah, the weather changes and the flight simulator can be pretty aggressive at times. Alright, it's time to descend and get back to Arlington. I'm going to reduce power to about 50%, I'd say. Go over our descent checklist. And it's kind of a half power descent. Well, I guess we could pull the power all the way back since we got to get down to pattern altitude. Carburetor heat is on. Throttle is roughly idle. Mixture is rich. Don't see any other traffic. Oh, another plane up there. See that guy? It's another one. He's with Seattle Center, so he can't hear us. We're on CTAF. I can't hear them. So, approach and landing. Fuel selector is on the proper tank. Seats are back and locked. Not really important in the simulator, but okay. Electric fuel pump is on. I think I've left it on the whole flight. Mixture is rich. I'm gonna set our flaps as we get in the pattern, and it says to trim for about 75 knots. And the final approach speed is going to be 66 knots at 40 degrees of flaps. Although I think I might go up a notch of flaps, or one notch less with flaps, since we got some high winds. Alright, put the checklist up there. We are currently at just about pattern altitude. Arlington traffic, Piper 06 Yankees, entering the downwind leg in the pattern for runway 34, full stop landing, Arlington. Crossing I-5 right now. What airplane is that guy above us? It's an A321. It says there's a Skyhawk near us. That's cool. So we'll turn downwind. Arlington traffic, Piper 06 Yankees on the downwind leg for runway 34, full stop landing, Arlington. approaching base, or yeah, the base leg here shortly. And started started descending a little too early while still in the downwind. But now we can start descending. Look at that sunset. Alright. Arlington traffic, Piper 06 Yankee is on base leg for runway 34, full stop, Arlington. Again, bring a notch of flaps down. Don't see anybody coming in on approach, so I think we're good. One more notch. Arlington traffic, Piper 06 Yankee is turning base to final for runway 34, full stop, Arlington. This is so cool. I'm so used to using the ATC prompts instead of my voice for radio comms. I got red over white, that's good. Oh, a little high. Got some lag. Let's try to butter this idle. A little firm. Alright, we're down. Oh, track IR is glitching. Hate it when it does that. Oh, look at that. Here's our exit. Gonna bring the flaps up. Carburetor heat off. Looks like we're clear on the taxiways. Oh, I just heard someone. Sky West is... Oh, someone's on CTAF. Arlington traffic, Piper 06 Yankee is clear of runway 34, Arlington. Hope they're hearing us. I mean, I know I'm the only one flying in this airplane right now and on the simulator, but I know I just like to keep on referring to us because I'm talking to potential viewers of this video who are tagging along on the flight. That is interesting. I wonder if that's him up there, that light. Gonna taxi over to the FBO up here. Sure, almost idle. Forgot to do that the minute we pulled off the runway. This Piper Archer I have here I'm flying is actually painted off of a real Piper Archer that belongs to an FBO that is in this exact location in real life at the real airport that owns this Archer. So, yeah. Anyways, parking brake on. Gonna lean our mixture a lot. Track air is glitching again. Fuel pump off. Gonna kind of take it up so we can kind of burn any excess fuel in the cylinders before we shut down. Meantime, we can turn off our lights except the beacon. It's glitching out. I'm gonna turn it off. Alright, so let's turn off Yeah, I think that's the avionics switch there. Yep, that's master, okay. Master's off, or I think avionics switch is off. Bring it back to idle. And shut the power. Turn the magnetos off. And master off. Yep, looks like aircraft is secured. Pop the door open. Stop my timer. Yeah, almost an hour. About 51 minutes of flight time. And about 3 minutes away from my next fuel switch. Guess I can switch it for the next flight. Actually, I think in real life you'd actually switch it to the off position, not have it on any tanks. Well, thanks for tagging along on this flight. I'll try to film more of my flight training on the simulator. And I'll also try to do more VATSIM flights. There's a VATSIM event tomorrow. Later in the evening, it's going to be taking place in nearby British Columbia. And I'll have, I think, Vancouver International, and I forgot the name of this airport. I know where it is, but I forgot the name of it, and I can't really pronounce it. Yeah, those two airports are going to be staffed, and it's basically going to be like a VFR cross-country flight between the two. So I'm probably going to participate in that, since they'll have actual controllers that I can talk to. And then on Wednesday, there's an event being hosted. It's hosted by the virtual Seattle ARTCC, I think that's their name. Basically the virtual Seattle Center, part of VATSIM. They're hosting an event where they're flying VFR from Portland to Redmonton through the gorge, the Columbia Gorge, so I think I'm definitely going to participate in that one. That's going to be a really fun flight, and I'll try to record that one too. So yeah, thanks for tagging along, and I'll try to do more of these. Strong tailwinds and happy flying.